Good morning. I'm Colleen Derrick and I'm a financial advisor with Swaggers Insurance Services. This is week number 4 of our 4-week mini course on responsible investing, make versus take. If you remember, there are 17 sustainable development goals that we are taking into consideration when we're taking a look at ESG, which is environment, social, and governance risks and opportunities. Week number 1, we discussed negative screening, which says we're avoiding companies in areas we don't agree with. Positive screening, saying that we're considering the impacts, both the risk and the opportunities of environment, social, and governance impacts. And impact investing, where there's a thematic approach saying we are passionate about this one theme, and we are chasing after, pursuing, and wanting to support and invest in companies that support and share that passion and that view. Week number 1 was our overview that we are looking for companies when we're talking about responsible investing. One of the big components that I hear across the board, whether it's an ETF, a mutual fund, segregated fund, whether it's a managed portfolio, whether it's a fund compilation, whether it's holdings of other micro funds, doesn't matter. Across the board, there's this attitude of wanting to invest in companies that are making value, not taking value. We talked about engaging, celebrating a certain theme, whether it's human thriving or thriving of the environment in the world, voting by proxy, getting engaged with companies, shareholder engagement. And then week number 2, and that there's a solution for everybody. If you're lukewarm, on board, or passionate, please do not throw responsible investing out the window if you are not on board with climate change, or if you're not an electric car person. That's okay. There's still tons of opportunities where you can take advantage, again, of just the common sense, avoiding certain risks, common sense, positioning yourself to take value of moving trends, or as well as scouting out something that you are passionate about and finding a fund manager that's focusing on that. There's a solution for, I would say, probably everybody. I really haven't met somebody that has a set point on investing that isn't accommodated in some area by some company somewhere with some product with a piece of responsible investing in it. Governance risk was week number 1, and that who's calling the shots, what shots are they calling, that the CEO and the directors really have an impact on the culture and the climate in a company and its impact. How my dad, Bill Swagger, demonstrated this in our company through to the succession of myself buying up the business from him and continuing to service our clients. Then week number 2, we talked about social risk. And that's really how the community is impacting the company and how the company is impacting the community, and working towards a synergetic correlation as opposed to one that's hazardous in both directions. We talked about social trends, that people and masses make decisions and it impacts the companies around them. Politics, governments have regulatory restrictions, but they also have platforms that they're pushing, and labor. That labor is really important, and we're seeing the labor workforce impacted severely in North America by the government supports to help people navigate the pandemic. But it has effectively taken a chunk of our workforce off the table. And so as I was on a trip in BC and out to the island, we were in restaurants and going to hotels, and they were so short of staff. You know, we were offered numerous jobs on our trip, asking, hey, are you looking for a job? Hey, would you like to work? Because they were having a hard time finding enough people to come to work and service the people that were asking for service. Really pertinent, at home, in this moment, understanding of how workforce impacts profitability and how that is a social risk. We want to be ensuring healthy lives for the people that work with the company and the people around the company. We want to have safe spaces where productivity can flourish and where people still feel safe at work and are safe at work. And cities and human settlements that are, again, resilient and sustainable. Environmental risk is part number 3. Left it to last because it's probably the one you have heard most about. And again, it's only 1 out of 17 sustainable target goals. The fact of the matter is, though, there is a huge risk, and there always has been, with business in the environment. Farmers, going back thousands of years, have been impacted by the environment. Where you plant your crop, what crop you plant there, how much you water it, when you harvest it. I really enjoyed watching Clarkson Farms, and we saw the impact of this amazing, the flooding that just wiped out an entire season of farming in this area. And it was funny in places, and it was heartbreaking and just so sad, because this is not isolated and it's not new. We know that environment impacts what we do for work. And we spoke a little bit about that with, the clients. You've been there trying to get up the drive to the farm, and Sean would have to be out and he'd have to make a road pathway for you. And there were times we just had to cancel our meetings because we didn't have virtual as easily as we do now. And so we would just cancel our meetings because the environment said, you weren't making it out there and I wasn't making it into you. So we want to talk about impact number 1. So what activities and business models should be stopped because they're harming the earth? That's an impact. That's an environmental impact that a company is having on the earth that is a consideration for ESG managers. Because if there's harm being done, that's not a company they're really wanting to support. Number 1, because the greater good says that that is a lesser profitability good at expense of our earth, and we're not okay with that trade-off. But the second part of that is, if you're destroying the environment you're doing business in, guess how long you're going to be doing business in it? And we are really starting to hear this word sustainable, sustainable, sustainable. We want companies that are going to be able to continue doing business from generation to generation and continue to grow and adapt and change, but that there's still going to be an environment that they have not destroyed for them to do business in. Impact number 2, what activities and business models should be supported and implemented because they're helping the earth. So, if there are activities that a business is taking, and again, we're laying down perfect and picking up progress. So if, say, a company is saying, well, we know we can't go completely paperless, but we could reduce our paper consumption, which means that there are more trees, which is better for the earth all around and for those of us that want to enjoy the earth. What about for companies that are trying to reduce the amount of power they're using? Saying, yeah, we are absolutely a digital economy and a digital community, but there are ways we can reduce the amount of energy we're using. And then we move forward to, companies that are actually pursuing energy that is more sustainable and has a lesser impact on our surrounding. Impact number 3, what activities and business models can be adapted or leveraged to shift from harming the earth to helping the earth? And this is where we see some very innovative companies that are taking the byproduct residue that is harmful and converting it and using it into something that is a marketable product. Plastics in the ocean are killing creatures. Ecosystems, food sources, businesses are negatively impacted because of this harmful impact. About 90% of all plastic waste that reaches the world's oceans by flushing through the rivers, littering, wind-blown waste, industrial waste, and municipal waste. Responsible investing wants to support businesses who are not only not contributing as a part of this process of pollution, but are proactively adapting to ensure that they're not inadvertently adding to the harmful outcome. So as I told my kid as he's playing with his lacrosse ball in the house, it's not good enough that you didn't mean to destroy, that wall and that lamp and that piece of artwork on the wall. It is your responsibility to ensure that you don't damage it. So thank you for not wanting to, But we need to take it that next level, and you need to be taking the actions required to make sure that you don't destroy my house. And so this is that same sort of an attitude that we're looking at here. Is that's great that you don't want to destroy the environment, but what steps are you actively taking to make sure that you are not polluting our oceans? Impact number 2. So reduce, reuse, recycle, circular business model. Some companies are basing their entire business model on these inspiring words. History has shown us examples of cultures where nothing was wasted. Every bit of resource had value. It was just up to the user to figure out what that value was. Necessity is the mother of creation, right? So nose to tail dining is a current business model demonstrating this concept where you're eating every part of the animal. Or extracting flavor out of every part of that animal. If you're not actually eating that piece, you've used it to bring flavor out of. Future Craft Loop is a running shoe made to be 100% recyclable. The Airbnbs are utilizing empty serviced properties. So properties that people have and they're just sitting there. You've got all of these resources that are inactive and still utilizing base resources to keep them from pipes from freezing and to keep them from deteriorating. Well, now they're actively being used. Philips Refurbished Systems financially supports hospitals returning their outdated like MRI equipment for updating and refurbishing and resale. Environmental impact number 3. Have you ever heard, don't throw out the baby with the bathwater? Well, revamping processes and addressing problem areas with creative solutions enables companies with ESG mandates that may have not supported to gain support. So basically, if there's companies like, you know what, they're not really in our avenue, but you know what, they're working on it. Well, let's take a look at how they're approaching it. What is the percentage of improvement that we are actually seeing? Is it scalable and is it measurable? So Carbon Cure used recycled CO2 in fresh concrete, thereby reducing the carbon footprint. Terramera uses technology to put carbon from the air into the soil, thereby reducing the use of fertilizers, pesticides, and reducing greenhouse gas. Climeworks captures and recycles CO2 emissions for industrial use. And Fuel Gems is an additive which is designed to reduce greenhouse emissions and increase fuel efficiency. So companies can utilize these technologies to keep doing what they do best while reducing harmful impact. Government impact. Governments are legislating change, and companies need to reframe their vision because governments are saying that the environment is important, and we are actually going to be legislating a movement towards helping the environment and stopping the harm of it. So companies that are already looking out for the environment are benefiting from incentives. They're also attracting investment dollars and top talent. Profit will follow. And companies that are not aligning with new initiatives are facing surcharges, penalties, and fines. Profits are hurt. Where do we want to be investing? It just makes sense. Plan to profit. Supply and distribution chains are changing, and we are seeing that, and we're going to see more of it. They are threatened by extreme weather occurrences and access to the global economy. So looking out for sustainable future profits means guarding against disruptions, getting the materials you need when you need them, and getting the goods that you make out to your buyers. This is pivotal. ESG-minded investors are attracted to companies that have cultivated access to supplies and markets which are impervious to, or at the very least insulated against, wild weather and foreign policy changes. Again, it just makes sense to make sure you can get the stuff you need and then that you can get your product to your buyers. It just makes sense. So next steps. Action 1, do some research of your own. It's good to see for yourself. Get out into the nature. Walk around an industrial section and see who's there and what they're doing. And of course, if you're not sick of being online, you can go online. Action step number 2, call, email, or visit to let me know what your thoughts are. We learn better together. Collaborative efforts. We are a team. If you're not a client yet, well, that's okay. We can still chat. Maybe you'll decide you want to be one. But even if you don't, that's all right. Because again, we can collaborate, we can share thoughts and ideas, and we are still better together. And if you are a client, please do let me know your thoughts, because you know that my priority is your goals, your best life, and your best future. And how you do the journey is as important as what journey you're doing and where you end up. So please tell me how you want to do your journey. And we are going to find investment options that help you do that the way you want. Action step number 3, pick an approach to build into your investment plan. So whether it's with me, whether you pick your own stocks, whether you're dealing with another professional, whether you're at a bank, communicate. If you're doing your own choices, start investigating what is really reflecting something that you can say makes sense and are also passionate about. Contact me at swaggers.ca for the website, 934-5025 for my phone number, or you can email me at colleen@swaggers.ca. Remember, I'm also on Facebook, which might be where you're viewing this video, Instagram, or LinkedIn.